we go. Yeah, come on. Hey, it's Conjecture time. This is episode 2 with Matt Voyno. Music, words, A&R, strategy, startup, editor, co-author. Matt Voyno, at Voyno on Twitter. Voyno is a former Saskatoonian living in New York City. Matt is the co-author of New Rockstar Philosophy. We talk about that a little bit. We talk about meditation. Silent illumination is a meditation that Matt enlightened me to. I'd never heard of this before, but listen for that. Sounds really cool. We talk about education, theater, music, religion, diet, technology, the future. Check it out. This was a really good chat. I had a lot of fun. Always respected Matt as a human being and as an adventurer and as somebody who's just willing to put it all out there for his passion and chase a dream and not be afraid to try new things and reach high and think big. And here it is, my chat with Matt Voyno after a quick word from our sponsor. Hey, here we go. It's Nick's Diaper Service. No messing around. Nick's Diaper Service. You don't want to be stuck at the store, standing in line, holding a big sack of diapers. Nobody thinks diapers are cool, babies, grannies, nobody, everybody. Nick's Diaper Service. Subscription service. You sign up, it's one flat monthly fee. All the diapers that you need for your baby and your granny too. It catches pee and it catches poo. We're talking Nick's Diaper Service. 1-866-GET-NICKS. Nick's Diaper Service. Nick's Diaper Service.
Hear a little bit of a lag, but I think we'll be all right. If it's getting too messed up, we can pause or try another time. It's all good.
Exactly, man. Well, thanks so much for agreeing to do this for me, even in this very
no problem, man.
Early run. I'm a podcast fanatic myself, and in the back of my head, I'm always going to do. I've always known I'm going to eventually do this. I know so many cool, creative people that I just want to have semi-focused conversations with and put them out there.
Yeah, cool, man. And so it's about like philosophy and stuff, or what is it?
Well, yeah, that's one of the things I'm fascinated with. I didn't know which angle to come at it. Like, I don't want it to be a full-on interview, but I kind of like to, dig into specific kind of creative people or people that fascinate me in some way. So not to get real personal, but I just like the unique points of views of the guests. That's what I'm
Definitely.
going for.
Yeah, no, I'm all down with going personal. It's all good.
Awesome, man. So first of all, how long have you been in New York City? You're a Saskatoon native and you're out in NYC now. Yeah,
I've been in New York since late October of last year. So nearly a year coming up, almost. Yeah.
Almost a year now.
Yeah.
And what prompted the move?
Basically, a lot of, in the industry that, we exist in, the music industry and the entertainment industry, there's kind of a ceiling in Saskatchewan and in Saskatoon and in Canada, really. And so I felt that really for me to grow to the level that I want to grow to, I needed to be in a major center. And my girlfriend or fiance and wife sort of thing, she is an American citizen as well, or she's an American citizen. And I thought, let's go out there to New York, see how it is, and see what we can make happen. She's in the theater world. She's an actor and director, and it just kind of made sense on a lot of ways. Plus, I don't know, I think you kind of like personally, I need to challenge myself, and Saskatoon really wasn't wasn't challenging me really anymore, or and then the ways that I wanted it to challenge me, like it wasn't providing that anymore. And so I thought, let's switch it up. Let's do something crazy.
Mm-hmm. Just had to burst the bubble and kind of get outside of it and start a new adventure.
Exactly. A new adventure. Exactly. Just, and this sort of, there's a few other things that kind of were in my mind. One of them being this kind of, just speaking of like philosophy, like the idea that like you want to write the book that you want to write your own book, the book that you want to read. That's not really eloquent, but you know what I mean, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to,
yeah, absolutely.
create that that life that you'd like to, read about. And I thought, okay, so for my 20s, I was in Saskatoon doing my thing. And then I was thinking, okay, for the next chapter in my 30s, I'd like to be in New York and see how that goes.
That's great, man, to think ahead like that and kind of pull yourself towards it rather than just feel like you're pushing forward. You've got a destination in mind, and kind of paints a picture for you, gives you a blank to fill in.
Exactly. Yeah. And, I don't know exactly what it's a blank, right? So I don't know what that's going to be, but we're finding out. Every day is a new adventure, like you said.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I can feel the excitement just talking to you and thinking about the prospects and the, just the lifestyle that you can live there and the connections that you can make, and just how like NYC and LA are, they're just a launch pad for all kinds of media and theater and the arts. And good for you for jumping outside the box.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's it definitely it was easy and it was difficult. It was easy just to like dream it, but then a lot more difficult to get the logistics of like, okay, if I'm Canadian, how long can I stay here? And like, how much money do I actually need? And the Canadian dollar is what now?
Yeah. That stuff is all a boner kill for me. As soon as you have to get into filling out forms and you got to wait on somebody to approve something and changing legal things over. So you're an author, New Rockstar Philosophy. Like, tell me about that. It's an award-winning book. Just tell me about it and how it came to be. And start with that.
Sure. So the book was kind of a way for me to be more engaged in the digital music world. When Hoover and I started it, Rashawn Hoover and I started it back in sort of 2007 and 8. Basically, I was looking for a lot of information about the digital music world, marketing your own music through the internet and stuff like that. And I wasn't finding it. And Hoover suggested we start looking into it and sort of writing about our own experiences via the blog. And so we started doing that. And at the time, there weren't really many other people in that world. And so, it started getting some hits. We started getting some followers. We decided to start putting together our ideas for a book. And we thought the book would be over. We'd have written it very quickly, but it turns out it took much longer to do. And so we released it in like 2009, late 2009, 2010 for free via the internet and via the connections that we made on the internet. It was traded around social networks. Some Brazilian guy read it, and it turns out the Brazilian guy was living in Italy at the time. He gave it to his producer, who is this just Italian producer. We didn't really know much about it. This Italian producer fell in love with it. He translated it into Italian. We met him at South by Southwest. He said that he could get us a book deal and a possible book tour out in Italy. We were like, well, sure, if that happens, that's great. Turns out it did happen. We went down there. It got published. We went for a little book tour. It won some award in Italy. And then I just kind of kept the ball rolling just because it's kind of an interesting journey and who knows what will happen with it. And so We got it published in Canada and North America in 2013. And then we made an app from it in 2014 with the University of Saskatchewan's help. And that kind of has helped me in my whole journey to New York, in the sense of I've met a lot of people via the contacts that I've made through that. And it's just kind of opened my eyes to bigger things and what I can do in this music industry. So yeah, that's kind of like a abridged version, but it was just kind of like hey, wouldn't it be fun if we did this? And then, that ball just kept rolling, and, here I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an undertaking I'm familiar with. Not writing a book specifically, but having a big idea and starting something, and then realizing, holy shit, if I'm going to finish this, up to my standards, there's a lot of work that's going to go into it. But you guys did it, and you finished it, and you got more adventures out of it to open some doors for you. So yeah, awesome. Kudos to you, man.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
So currently, do you have anything right now that you're working on as an author? Are you writing, or do you write all the time? I know you're creative. You must be outputting right now. What are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that kind of sort of happened with that whole thing is, you're a musician, you're playing guitar, and then you're like, oh, I wonder about this sort of music industry stuff, and then you start writing, and then you're like, well, now I'm writing more than I'm like rocking out. And sometimes that realization for me happened sort of like way later. Like, you kind of just take the trip and you're like, oh wait, didn't I want to do this originally? So I'm kind of getting back to, it's like you do the journey to get back to where you are, or where you were rather. And so I'm kind of like back there, in the sense of I'm writing music again. I'm sort of thinking about performing it. I'm thinking about how I can fit into the New York scene, whatever scene I choose to be part of. So right now, I'm doing more music creation stuff. And as far as writing, I'm still writing the blog. I still have a lot of ideas. I've started connecting with some people here to write some more for different publications and stuff like that. And then, as an aside to that, I also have like interest in different stuff. So my friend is a clinical psychologist, and we have begun writing a book sort of about it's like mindfulness, for our smartphone generation, if you will, just sort of like stuff that will, like, actionable things that can like make your life better, whether that's like meditation daily or how to even meditate daily. And I mean, a lot of this stuff is really highfalutin, overarching stuff, and who knows if this book will ever get as far as the New Rockstar Philosophy did, but I enjoy thinking about it. I enjoy talking about it. I enjoy writing about it. So that's kind of what I'm doing in the writing world. And just kind of music creation. And so I mean, pretty much all the things are keeping going, or are running along, but in a different capacity, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess with all the new challenges right now, like with technology moving ahead as fast as it does and giving us the conveniences it does, there's all the new challenges of putting it down and not having that space. Like you talk about, coming back to the place you started, you appreciate what you had once you don't have it and you come back there. And it's kind of the same thing with, it sounds like the right time also for the mindfulness writing. And could you elaborate a little bit on, did you say that an app that you guys are working on for, or is it something you're not really talking about yet in detail?
No, well, so right now, as far as the mindfulness stuff, that's just sort of a book that we want to do. And as far as the app, that's like a New Rockstar Philosophy thing. And so we did that a while back. But I mean, apps are another thing that I'm really interested in. So I'm always kind of working on, I always have some sort of idea. Wouldn't it be cool if, I've got that bug in me. And so, yeah, there's a few different, few different things going on in my world. None of it is really to the point where I'm like, oh, go to this website or check this out. It's still very much in the incubation period.
Right. Awesome, man. So do you have a practice or a daily ritual that you go to just to keep your sanity, or to keep you, like if you're anything like me, and I feel like you're the same kind of guy where you get those creativity attacks where you feel like there's, too many things at once. And you mentioned mindfulness. I'm wondering, do you have some kind of practice that you go to clear your
head? I can tell you a practice that I aspire to, and that would be sort of like a daily meditation, anywhere between 5 and 20 minutes. If I can get that twice daily, because I think that from what I've learned, if you can do like 20 minutes, in the morning and 20 minutes sort of in the evening, that's sort of a good place to go. But right now, in New York here, I travel on the subway a lot, and you stand in lines a lot, and in a lot of those situations, there are opportunities for mindfulness in the moment. And so instead of whipping out your smartphone and playing a game or checking Twitter, often I try to just like get into the now as it is. So sometimes when it's like a frustrating situation, like you're in line at the grocery store and there's like a lot of people in front of you, instead of just getting mad at that, I would just like, okay, let me see how much I can hear. Because I don't know if you've ever heard of silent illumination. It's a way of practicing mindfulness in the sense of being in the now, but instead of like focusing on your breath, which works for some people. For me, I'm a very auditory person, so silent illumination works really well. I just try to like listen, be hyper aware, like, an animal almost, and just like as much as I can listen, let me take it all in. So everything from, people speaking in front of me to, the creak of the door, and that helps sort of in a daily routine to kind of get away from having your mind go, always have to jump into what's future self going to do, or what happened in my past that I can bring up that can haunt me right now. No, I can just like be here in the moment. And so I try to practice that, like I was saying, like when I'm in lines or on the subway, it works quite well when you can just like sit down, and as the train's going to your station, you can just like breathe in and out, and like just look at a space, look at some place in the car, and just like focus on it, and just like breathe a few times, and just listen. And these are all goals. These are all the things that I want to do. I'm not saying that I achieve it all the time, but it's good that even if every once in a while I'm able to not pick up the phone, I'm able just to listen, I'm able to just to breathe. I think all those little things in the day, they add up to something that I think benefits me.
Exactly. I think just the awareness of it, just noticing as soon as you find yourself in line and notice that you're starting to get a little bit irate, or you huff and you look at your watch and then you notice it, that's half of it right there. If you've noticed it and you have a practice to go to, then you've got that right there. What did you call that again? I want to write that down. I've never heard that term.
Silent illumination.
Silent illumination. That's cool. It's kind of like the opposite of what you typically think, that people are trying to block out all the barking dogs and the car alarms and just focus on your breath, but just letting it all in and hyper amplifying it. That's a cool way to go at it.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing, and sometimes when I'm sit down for like an actual sort of meditation session, and I find my mind running, which happens all the time, of course, I sometimes can just like, okay, let me just breathe slowly and let me see how much I can hear. So, in the summer, the window's open and you can hear like a car going somewhere far, far away, and you're like, oh, how much can I hear? Okay, now it's gone, and what else can I hear? And it's all like happening in the moment. And that's, I think, the key is not necessarily to get tied up into thinking of like, what is it, or trying to analyze it, but just like accepting the sound and just kind of like using that to transplant yourself firmly into the now.
Mm-hmm. Watching it change.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I keep coming back to this really basic, just simple concept of input versus output, because I find myself I get intrigued by a lot of things. I'll listen to a lot of podcasts, and you're taking in music, and I'll notice sometimes I feel like I'm getting too much input if I analyze it and realize I have to turn off the input and output something, like, what does this all mean? I've taken in all this knowledge and this art and media, and I've, been inspired and had ideas, but that needs to come out in some form, in your own creation or
totally. Yeah, actually I've podcasting is, I appreciate the form, and I've dabbled in it a little bit. But for me, it's almost overwhelming. There's so much to know, and there's so much to listen to, and I don't know. I'm one of those people who's always connected to the internet, which is a problem. And so I'm always refreshing that Twitter feed and stuff. And I don't know, podcasting or podcasts, I have to, I have to dive into it at a sort of different pace than I was, because I was getting overwhelmed, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. Education, I'm curious, how far did you take education, and what do you think of education today? What do you think of the future of education?
Interesting. Yeah. So I have a University of Saskatchewan degree, arts degree. The major that I chose was psychology. Originally it was archaeology, but then I switched it up sort of midway through. And what do I think? I mean, like my parents, so I was born in Poland, and I immigrated to Canada as a young toddler. And obviously a young toddler, and my parents' education essentially saved their lives, right? Because Poland, if you know anything about that, in the 80s, they were communists, and so the only way you could like literally escape the country was if you had, an invitation to go to a university or something like that.
Right.
And so that's what happened with my father. He was able to sort of better himself through education, and he was able to, after a while, bring the whole family over and stuff like that. So education was always pushed in my family. And that's not to say that I rebelled against it, but for me, what university provided for them, it didn't provide the same thing for me. As you know, there's been like a general corporatization of education in North America and universities in general, I would say. And so, I don't know, I always felt that I got a lot more education in my moments of traveling, let's say, when I, spent, X amount of months traveling. Those were the moments. And so, I feel that moving to New York is another sort of education, another sort of place where I will learn so much, and that's because it's like, I think, out of my comfort zone. And so as far as, like the future for me, I don't see too much education happening in a formal sense. In an informal sense, that's all I'm doing. Like I devour books, I devour, online courses. I try to learn as much as I can about the things that interest me. Those aren't necessarily things that could be put into university courses. But I don't know. In a broader sense, education, I think, is it doesn't get enough. It doesn't get enough respect in a lot of ways, and in the sense that we were talking about, or I was saying about the corporatization of education. And even today, I saw that the whole Seattle teachers have all gone on strike because they're being mistreated. And that's kind of the story across North America, right? They keep putting that education further and further away from the breadbasket, from the money, and it's not helping. Like, I think education is super important, but I guess the way that they're doing it these days is a travesty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's even in my little town right now. I live in a small town, Saskatchewan, just east of Saskatoon, and some changes that Brad Wall made to the budget are heavily affecting our school board, which is actually, I think it's the biggest school board in Saskatchewan that serves a lot of the rural area schools surrounding the city. And, huge cuts. They justify it with numbers on paper that say, no, look at,
Exactly.
here's the numbers, but these numbers are all have to do with, operating costs of the new buildings and the upgrades they've made. Meanwhile, nothing to do with the teachers' wages,
Right.
which there are more of than ever to serve the more kids. And
Right, exactly. And I mean, you and I both, I think, agree that, how do they, what happened to that money that used to be there? Well, it's going to subsidize the oil industry or all these sort of other things that are maybe good for the economy immediately, but like kids obviously are the future, right? Children, future. So, yeah, man, I don't know. It's just, I feel that there's our generation is awake to those sort of facts, and we are the ones that are, replacing the baby boomers, and we're here to, I think, change a lot of those things. So hopefully change is coming soon, but maybe in a lot of cases not soon enough.
Yeah, it seems to be a lot of really short-term thinking on behalf of the government, whereas this up-and-coming generation, I think, is seeing the effects of it now. And when you hear scientists, shouting from the mountaintops with data, and and politicians are saying, don't worry about that, don't look at that. Who are you going to believe? It's these people's jobs to convince you of things. Meanwhile, it's these other guys' jobs to just collect pure data.
Totally.
Yeah, man.
Totally.
This question just popped up in my head. I just thought it was like a neat little exercise, but it's probably something that you already do since you think ahead and you've kind of planned your next 10 years out. But if you could look ahead 100 years and have people find artifacts and media and things that you've left behind, what kind of impression would you want to leave as a human of this century?
Yeah, that's interesting because actually I have sort of planned ahead the next 100 years of my life. Just sort of like, there's just sort of like, for lack of a better term, bucket list things that I want to do. And that includes, at some point in my life, I want to sort of go sailing. I want to sail with my family that I don't have yet. I want to do something like that. And a lot of these things are sort of romantic, idealized things. But as far as sort of general sense, I think what I want to do, which I think a lot of people want to do, I think I want to just, push or move culture, move the world to a better place. And not only, and I mean, that can be for many different people, that can be mean a lot of different things. And so, some people, raising their kids well, and that's awesome. And for me, I think what that means is I want to make a real impact on the world. Like that Steve Jobs quote, make a dent in the universe sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these things are like, cheesy, or not cheesy, but have been like repeated ad nauseum to the point where they lost their meaning. But I think that's kind of what I'm going for. I think that, like what we were talking about earlier, like our generation is really aware of these things and moving it and changing it. That's what I want to do. I want to just be, part of it. I want to be able to look back and, let's say, in that 100 years and say, okay, I was able to enlighten people. I was able to, change this. I was able to do that. I think, like, making the world a better place, for lack of a more eloquent statement. I think that's kind of what I ultimately want to do. Mm-hmm. How about you? What are your thoughts?
That's funny. No one's asked me that before. I just made it up. Yeah, I guess obviously in a similar vein, I want to leave behind some kind of a positive impact, but right now, I guess just part of the like motivation for this podcast is just communication, connection, expression. I guess I'm looking for my tribe. I'm kind of reaching out there and just trying to, click with a tribe. And honest, I do the mindfulness practice as well. Not the silent illumination. I haven't tried that yet, but I'm going to give that a try. but a lot of mindfulness and some specific little practices under Jack Kornfield, who a Buddhist teacher I found.
Oh yeah.
Listening to other podcasts, and just something about his voice just really clicks for me. And I don't know where I'm going with that, but I get to a place where I can almost feel like it is 100 years down the road and I'm gone, and I can feel okay with it. I want that feeling. I want to feel like,
right,
like you're okay with everything. There's nothing left undone. There's no scars left that you haven't been forgiven for, kind of thing. So, I guess if anything, a clean slate, but with with the positive impact and maybe some inspiring art, just leave some smiles behind, and hopefully some grandkids who maybe think some of the stuff I left behind was cool.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're on the right track. Doing these things and getting involved is how you find your tribe. Like, it's interesting that you say that, because like literally that's kind of it, when we started the New Rockstar Philosophy, that's all we were kind of looking for, is just kind of like finding other musicians who are interested in the same sort of stuff. And I think through the work, which is unglamorous, just doing it, putting out those podcasts, putting out those blog posts, putting out that music, that's not always always it hits, right? It doesn't always connect, but sometimes years down the line, people will find these things and they'll connect. And so I think, really, for you and I both, I think really the thing that we need to do is just keep on keeping on. All these fucking cliches I'm throwing at you. Yeah, they do, right? And so, just keep on doing your work, and not worry so much about the immediate success, and just keep going. Eventually, something will click. Eventually, something will fall into place, and I think a lot of other things fall into place when one thing goes. It's like, oh, click, 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 click. Oh, you're the president of the world! Yay!
Yeah, and it's the one thing that really draws me in about it, and that fired me up so much about podcasting, is just the honesty of it. Just hearing people in these long-form conversations having a flowing, real-time, honest conversation that's not scripted, and it's not just for promotional purposes, but you get to hear, these people that inspire you, and you get to kind of, poke into their inner workings a little bit, or really hear about their process and what drives them. And it's just, there's free inspiration everywhere. And I just kind of wanted to get in on that and share that with some other people, and have my own take on it, kind of thing.
Totally, man. Totally.
Have you mentioned that your fiance there, congratulations, by the way.
Thank you very much.
I had no idea where you're at. It's been a couple of years since we've chatted.
Definitely.
You mentioned that she's into directing and acting. Have you dabbled into that world at all? I thought I'd heard that had you been involved in theater before you left?
Yeah. Well, so she is a sort of she does sort of like mainstream, but also experimental theater work. And so in 2013 or 12 now, I can't remember, she got me involved in one of her experimental pieces, and I got to do the music, which was sort of percussion. So I had like a couple big drum. It was actually all percussion. Big drums and stuff like that, and shakers and sort of instruments that I had never used, but I was given by our director. And we created a piece, or she and her director created a piece. I came in sort of to do the musical accompaniment, and we toured that. So we did the Saskatoon Fringe Festival and the Edmonton Fringe Festival, and we did some other performances here and there across Western Canada, and it was really a really enjoyable and rewarding experience. And I got to obviously as a couple, we got to know each other a lot better, and that helped a lot. And so I think we're going to keep working together. We are still working together on projects. And I think it's a really cool thing to do, because I think it would be great actually if more musicians were able to collaborate with theater people, because I think although we both perform on stage in front of people, the process is very different, and I think both parties could learn a lot from each other. Because I know that I learned a lot from being around her and her director and stuff like that. So definitely the theater world is still interesting to me, and I'm still going to pursue it any way I can. But there's nothing sort of immediately like no performances kind of going on in the near future.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's cool that you've dabbled in it though. Yeah, I could picture musicians learning a lot from theater people, in a sense that musicians you're usually trying to define yourself, whether you know it or not, as a musician. You've got your sound and your style and your look, whereas theater people are supposed to be, totally malleable, flexible, right? They have to play different roles and, portray different emotions and things. And I could see that, being a good learning experience.
And also, like, sort of just the way that, at least in my experience, the way that theater people are more educated in a sense about what their process is, and about finding like what they're trying to say. At least with my fiance Kristen, it was like that. I don't know. It really blew my mind how much I was learning and the process. Because a lot of times, I don't know how it is always with you and your bands, but you want that sort of final product, that single or what have you. But with theater people, experimental theater in particular, I guess, the process of getting that final product was as important, if not more important, than the actual product. With theater people, they'll do like a performance for a week, let's say, or maybe a month at most. With us, with musicians, like, we'll play the same, riffs for our entire lives, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just like, I don't know, it just really opened my eyes, and I would encourage any musicians out there to collaborate with theater people as much as they can.
Sounds like it would be like a creative cleanse, just to get things moving through you, because I know what you mean. You can be touring on the same, semi-popular album for 5 years or whatever, but as a theater person,
totally.
You've got to move on. We saw Grease last month. Are there any, I wanted to go up to, like, religion, kind of spirituality, nice. Anything in that realm that you gravitate towards when you hear the word religion, first of all?
Well, lately I've been really into Pope Francis. So I was raised Roman Catholic, and then obviously, like most Roman Catholics, I fell away from the faith. My dad was always very spiritual, in the sense he was always like looking for more answers and more spiritual stuff. So when I was growing up, he was always reading like these sort of books about like who's the real Jesus, the secrets behind the Bible, that sort of stuff. And I never read it. I was never into it, but even it being around in the house kind of got me interested in it, I think. And that's kind of where the stuff that we were talking about earlier, the sort of spiritual element to meditation and stuff like that, I think that's where all that stuff started. As far as religion these days, I believe that, we are all from the same space dust sort of thing, that we're all one. And so, I try to be kind as much as I can, because everyone's just you and a different version of you, essentially. But I don't have like a spiritual practice any more than, now, living in the now and trying to be mindful, that sort of thing. But like I said, I'm really into like this sort of, dare I say, rebellious things that Pope Francis is talking about. Because like really, he's like the only global leader, I would say, who's like saying climate change, it's here, we have to tackle it. Like, what are we doing? Let's do this already. And I think that's really ballsy for someone like the Pope, who hasn't really I think for me, Pope John Paul II was really important because he was a Polish guy, and he helped bring down communism in a way. And so communism always was a big bad influence in my family's history. And so I have an affinity towards that. But then after John Paul II, it wasn't really anything that got me interested. And this new Pope is really, he's like kind of rekindling my interest into that whole world. And I was actually thinking about, I'm really into back patches, like on jean jackets and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And so I wanted to create this one that's like, instead of Pope Francis, it's going to say Punk Francis, because he's such a punk, But then I was like, well, maybe people won't understand, and maybe they'll think I'm calling him like a little punk or something. And then I'm like, no, okay, so I'll put Punk Pope Francis, but then that sounds too much like pop punk, and I don't want that, connotation there. So I don't know. I'm still like, that's something I'm still sort of like marinating in. But
still working on that patch design.
Exactly. And then I'm like thinking, okay, should it be Pope Francis with like a mohawk, like one of those giant punk mohawks I'll give him or something? I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. It's religion is something that I think about all the time, or not all the time, but it's something that I'm like into. I read the Eckhart Tolle books. I went into the whole world of The Secret when that was, all that sort of spiritual stuff. I'm super into, and I will be, I think, forever. How about you? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I kind of subscribe to the idea of we're all from the space dust. We're all one kind of thing. I really like the template of like, a batch of souls that comes down to Earth as kind of, like a Matrix playground to learn lessons. Like it's like an educational experience. And I find I find that life is a lot more bearable every day if you can look at everything as what am I learning from this, rather than why is this happening to me, or why is it cold
totally.
out?
Totally.
You have to look at the side that you are putting in, or that you can put in, and not just so much just holding a magnifying glass up to the thing that's resisting you. Yeah.
And so if I may ask, you have children, right? Correct?
Yeah, I've got 2 girls, 5 and 8.
And so how does that, like, do you transmit that stuff to them, or how does that whole thing work?
Well, yeah, it's funny because like most people that were born around here or in North America, period, our parents were all different kinds of Christians. My wife's parents were Lutheran, and my parents were pretty loose Christian. But my wife's mom is still quite involved with the church, and she takes my daughters to church once in a while when she's visiting with them. And my older daughter has a friend whose mom takes them to church things, and she goes to little church get-togethers and things in the town sometimes. So they get all the practices that the church teaches them, the pamphlets and everything. And they bring it home and they tell us, how it is and stuff, what they've read there. And I, it's funny. I try not to be too snarky about it, because I'm, I'm 33 and I've been through that. My parents told me that too. And here's how I see it now. You can't quite come at a kid like that. So I try to, I'll ask them questions about it and just see how they feel about, some of the stories. And, I just try to leave the ends a little bit more open, when they come and tell me, this is what God looks like, and they show you a picture of Jesus and say, well, that's, some people say this guy was born a couple thousand years ago and he was a really good guy, and this is why people seem to worship him and enjoy him. Just give them another perspective on it instead of saying this is the gospel and this is what everybody believes. It's cool. A little looser than that. And they see my wife and I, we practice yoga fairly regularly. My wife's every day, and I try to be every day.
Awesome.
And meditation and stuff. So the kids will join in on yoga once in a while, or once in a while the kids will just sit and start meditating, and it just it blows you away when you see them do that. Like it's it's almost like more natural for a kid just to go into that mind space, because they don't have bills and deadlines and other things that are bouncing, hammering at the back of their skull to
pull them out of it. Yeah, interesting. Wow, that's cool. So yoga, that's interesting. I've tried to get into yoga. I just haven't found the right practice. I can appreciate it, but it works for you. You say?
Yeah, and I remember feeling like, I don't know, maybe when I was 25 or something like that. I felt like it was something I was going to resonate with, but I wasn't into it then. And then eventually, shortly after my wife and I got married, we bought a DVD and just started doing it in the living room at home. And it just became a little ritual for us. And it's nice because we both connected with it too. So it was that much more, just a different level of intimacy. So it's a practice, it's healthy. We're doing it together, and you get immediate benefits from it. And it's just the spiritual aspect of the connection and the quieting of the mind and the physical stretching and letting go and strengthening. And it's just, for me, it's just an amazing package. It's like I never practiced for more than 20 minutes, and I've only been to an actual yoga studio, I think 3 or 4 times, and which is good because you get them to, a professional to kind of correct your poses and tell you what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. But we put in most of the time at home. Cool.
So is that like, earlier you were asking about sort of, your daily ritual sort of thing. Exercise is really important for me. And so obviously through yoga, that's how you get your exercise. Do you do other stuff as well, or is that?
No, that's one thing that I always feel a little bit bad about, is I feel like I should do more cardio exercise. I ride my bike a little bit, but not enough to say that I get cardio exercise from it. So yoga, it's really good. I feel like I'm in the best shape of my life, and
oh, wow.
And I don't do that much of it, so I'm thankful for that, but I still feel like I should do more. I should be doing some cardio or something. Maybe I'm fine and I just feel like I'm getting away with something because it's not strenuous. It takes focus and persistence, but it's not like, I'm not sweating and grunting and
right.
Well, there's some sweating, but right. No, I do feel like I should be running or biking. I feel like I need more.
Yeah, I put on some weight in the winter, as you do, and I've been working hard to lose it. So, definitely exercise is a part of it, but eating right is so key. And I think if you're eating right, I think that's really just half the battle, So
yeah. I find things like, documentaries and reading articles and things about it. It helps because it beats it into your head to where you can't lie to yourself. When you reach for a bag of chips and you're just like, these trans fats and bullshit. If you've got that hammered into your head, it's that much harder to do. So it's totally, I find it's easier with if you've got a partner too who's health conscious, because you've got somebody to look at you when you're digging into that tub of ice cream, just give you that look like, hey,
yeah, totally.
But yeah, we all have our cheat days.
Yeah, for sure. So speaking of diet, in America, when Kristen and I moved here, we found that the portion sizes are just like massive. They're American size, right?
Yeah.
And so one of our traditions is like when we go out, we order one meal and we'll split it, and it'll be enough for both of us. You don't need a fucking huge roll, mashed potatoes, and a giant steak. We could just have half of that and we'll be fine. So that's another way we've been doing it.
Yeah. I find that too. I don't eat as much. It's not super conscious. I guess it is on a level, but like I said, once you kind of understand things a certain way, you just can't blindly, I can't blindly drink 3 big gulps in a day anymore. Like I used to when I worked across the street from a 7-Eleven.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's just too obvious. But yeah, same thing. Whereas I'd go to a barbecue before and you'd easily, a burger and a hot dog or a couple burgers. And now I eat one and I'm just like, I don't need that whole bun or something. Just give me an open face.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Although I will eat burgers like nobody's business and hot dogs.
Oh yeah, I can too. I still push it till it hurts. That's my one weak thing is food. I eat pretty good, but I'll go on snacking rampages.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's tasty.
Yeah, and even if you don't fill the pantry with crappy snacks, there's always cereal.
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah. One thing, okay, speaking of snacks, kale chips, those are pretty good. I've had those a few times. FYI, you can make them at home, which are pretty good. So if you're looking for chips,
You kind of bake them and salt them?
yeah, you kind of like sort of rub them with oil, and you kind of need to like manhandle each leaf. So yeah, you rub them in oil, and then you put like garlic, rub them with garlic and some salt and some pepper, and bake them up. And yeah, they're pretty good. You do need to do like quite a bit because they do shrink, obviously, in the oven. But yeah, they're tasty and they're a good substitute, I found.
Thanks for the tip. I'll try that. I've heard of that before. So back to religion, spirituality. I wanted to delve a little bit into the technology side of things. What new technologies out there right now are exciting you or scaring you?
Well, I have a smartphone. I have an iPad. I enjoy both of them. I would like a new. I would like the new iPhone. I'm not gonna lie. I don't have one. I would like the iWatch, which I don't have. I don't know. I think supposedly the iWatch isn't like a necessary thing, but what it does do is it makes a lot of different things sort of seamless and smooths out the edges, which is something interesting that I've heard. I don't think it's necessary right now to my life, and I don't think I'll get one anytime soon, but maybe within the next sort of year. But those sort of smart technologies, wearable technologies, I'm interested in. Obviously, it's a slippery slope because have you seen that show Black Mirror at all?
No.
So Black Mirror, it's a BBC show, and I would recommend you checking it out. It's sort of a dystopian thing, and they have each episode is kind of covers a different sort of part of the future. And they have one episode about these wearable technologies where it goes from the iPhone and from the iWatch to like an embeddable chip that you put in your head that's able to like record everything and store everything, and then you could just replay these your previous memories, and that sort of stuff definitely scares me. I don't know. Once again, back to our generation. At some point, I think our generation is going to be able to, I hope, say no this or yes to this, but not to this. But yeah, I think, I don't know, I'm not afraid of it, but I think that we should all be mindful of what could happen. I'm sure you read about Elon Musk and someone else. They were donating like millions of dollars to make sure that Terminator never happens, that sort of thing.
To have a watchdog on AI.
Yeah, exactly. And so those things definitely freak me out, but I think we're going to be ahead of that or on top of that.
Yeah,
I hope.
It's a crazy world. Yeah, it's almost like some big Hollywood movie where the villain's gaining some ground, and then you see, oh no, the good guy's got a plan for this, and then there's a new villain, and these guys come out of the woodworks like Elon Musk that just kind of give you hope. Like, what? There's a billionaire that means well, and that that seems to want to pull out of oil and change the way that energy works in our society.
Totally. He's got like roots in Saskatchewan, eh?
What? No.
Yeah, I think his like grandparents are from like Esterhazy or something. I don't want to.
Oh wow!
Like, don't quote me on that, but definitely he's got some Saskatchewan roots, I think. Okay, and I might be completely wrong, but that's something to Google.
I like how right when you said Saskatchewan, you said A right after it. I think that was the first time you said A this conversation.
I notice it a lot more, but I am okay with saying it.
Of course.
I haven't incorporated y'all into my conversations as much as the Americans do it here.
Yeah. Even on the East Coast there, you get a lot of y'all?
Yeah, definitely.
I've been through the States a couple times, but only really traveled once solidly in the States, and that was in the South. I could not believe how, like, yeah, it's all y'all, and a lot of, like the typical waitress, the diners that you'd see in movies, where the big waitress with the big bust calling you sweetheart,
Right.
darling. That it was real. It was there. They were there.
Nice.
I met that lady.
You know them.
What about the HoloLens? Have you seen any of that stuff? The VR?
No, I don't know. Like, so are you talking about like the Oculus Rift sort of stuff?
Oculus Rift and HoloLens is another one.
Yeah, I mean the main thing that's kind of scares me about that. So I did try the Oculus Rift at Noodle Cake Studios in Saskatoon. They have one, and I got to do the roller coaster ride, which was really interesting and wild. But the thing that kind of interests me and scares me about that is how Facebook bought that company, right?
Right.
So I don't know what Facebook has planned for it, but who knows? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure so much about that stuff. Where do you think that's going?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I see all they're all tool. I have to zoom out a little bit and just look at the big picture. It's all tools, just like the internet. You can make connections and just meet somebody and fall in love, or you could track somebody down and kill them. Just like with drugs, you can overdose, or you can have a spiritual experience. I think the same thing with this new technology. It gives you a chance to get into like a seemingly physical, although it's virtual, tangible, like meeting space. People could have experiences that they otherwise couldn't have in their homes, but then at the same time, then there's that counterbalance that you're going to be in your home a lot more, not leaving. You're not going to be going outside and seeing that. I don't know. It kind of worries me about like the future of activism, just with a society that's full of people that are not even necessarily afraid to leave your house, but you just have no reason to, because there's so much stimulation from within your little apartment that you don't see that the river just outside your house is being polluted and, shit's going down. There's nobody out there standing on soapboxes.
Right.
There's nobody to listen if there is. If everybody's looking at their phone, or if they have their virtual reality helmet on. So that scares me a little bit, just that if we're outside of this world too much, then we'll neglect our physical reality while we're, looking for other planets to terraform and destroy this one.
Right. That like, and then we'll all end up like that movie Idiocy or in that WALL-E movie, right? Yeah, Idiocracy. Yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah. But I don't know. I think that at the same time we're moving into that. Like, I think that, like what you and your wife do with the, yoga practice and what we're talking about with mindfulness, I think there's, the pendulum swings one way, but it goes the other way too, I feel. So exactly. I don't know. I'm hopeful.
Yeah, no, me too. I see that too. And I don't think a lot of this mindfulness and a lot of these practices from the East would have really penetrated our society if the need wasn't there so much to get more of the, whatever, the yin or whichever it is, more of the, feminine, reflective kind of energy, because our society is so driven by male dominance, profit, progression. We got to move forward, the inflation's going up. We need to produce more next year. Just that infinite growth paradigm. I think it's fertile ground for meditation and for a lot of these new kind of reflective practices for people to be quiet and breathe and take a look at what's going on.
Totally, man. Yeah. And
on the tip of that, have you ever? I'm sure you've heard of people talking about simulation theory. The likes.
No,
you've never heard this?
No, I don't think so. Keep going. What is it?
I can't describe it like a scientist could, but so yeah, basically the idea is just that if we can even fathom that this could be a simulation, and our technology kind of is showing us that we understand how this could be working, is that like the chances are, just like the chances are that there's another Earth-like planet out there because of how infinite the universe is, then there's a good chance we're already in it, that we could be in this simulation, that this is a program, it is a matrix, zeros and ones somehow.
Wow. Okay. And I guess, the argument is that it is a simulation, right? Because like not in the sense of like, now I know nothing about this. I'm just talking right now, but I mean, it is kind of like a program, right? I mean, it is a hologram. Isn't that been proven already, I thought?
Right.
I don't know.
Well, we know that the way we see is holographic. Like the part of our brain that actually conjures up vision is in the back of our head. It's completely dark matter. There's photons that get in and excite other nerves that are sending signals back there. So yeah, we're creating holograms. So we could easily be in a jar of fluid somewhere, just experiencing this.
Right. Yeah. I mean, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, it's something worth poking into, just that the fact that there's some actual science and there's some mathematicians that are saying, no, look, we found these equations, that describe the fabric of time that are these same self-correcting algorithms that we use to power the internet, or there's something like that validates it on a, from a scientist point of view.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I guess that can be in a way depressing, but maybe in a way like inspiring, that like, okay, so you can like create your future, right? Or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And who knows better that they can create their own reality than you?
Totally. I just grew a claw while you were speaking.
Maybe it's not quite that quick, but you know that if you have the foresight to think like, I want to grow a beard, that you can have a beard in a month, or I want to go to Mexico, you can get there. It just, there's that latency between the thought and then the manifestation. Hey? Well, listen, man, thanks so much for coming on, man. It's been a pleasure and a delight just to chat with you and catch up.
Definitely.
And I've always, just always admired your mind and always wondered what kind of adventures you're up to. And when Matt told me you were in NYC and I was just thinking of starting this podcast, I thought that is one guy I want to chat with. So thanks a lot for coming on, dude.
No problem. I enjoyed my time thoroughly. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Yes. Any time that you're up for a chat, if you just want to chat off air, that's cool. Do you have any social contacts or anything you want to plug and share that I can put in the show notes?
I mean, just sort of like my Twitter is @Voyno, I guess you could do, and then just mattvoyno.com if anyone wants to reach out to me through that, or I mean that'll probably be good. Those two things. I think through those you can probably find a lot of my things, and people can contact me if they want.
Awesome. And they can find your book there at mattvoyno.com.
Yeah, exactly.
Beauty. Well, yeah, thanks a lot, man. Real pleasure.
No problem, man. You have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
Peace.
See ya. Boom. That was Matt Voynovich. That was a lot of fun. Wow, did I ever enjoy that? I haven't chatted with him for a while. It's kind of a rush, just for some reason, just talking on Skype, setting all this up. I haven't seen Buddy in a long time, and I wasn't sure if the internet was going to hold up here. It's kind of sketchy at the farm, but so I was tethering off of my phone actually the whole time, and I only lost him once. And I think it worked out though. That was a pretty cool chat. @Voyno on Twitter, mattvoyno.com. Check him out. This is Conjecture Time. My name's Chris. Thank you very much.
Now, one more quick word from our sponsor.
You don't got time to be standing in line getting diapers. It's 1-866-GET-NIX. NIX, subscription diaper service. You get NIX. Get NIX. NIX, subscription diaper service. You sign up, it's $24.99 a month. 1-866-GET-NIX. We're not on the internet. We don't have a website. No, we're not online. NIX diaper service.
Phone calls only.
NIX diaper service. 1-866-GET-NIX. Subscription diaper service. It's diaper service. Diapers to your door. Diapers to your door. That's NIX diaper service. 1-866-GET-NIX.